Greetings, salutations, respect, and love. I am Scott, and you, my poor, unfortunate traveler through the wastelands of the internet, have landed on the #1 prog rock channel on YouTube. Congratulations. And today, I'm going to be discussing the 16 proggiest albums, and I'm not picking these at random. I'm actually doing something a little bit different here today. I am going to be looking at the 16 proggiest albums in each of the prog subgenres. According to Prog Archives, there are 21 subgenres. I'm going to bring that down a little bit. First off, I'm getting rid of the Indo-Raga category. I don't even know what that is. Maybe it was a viable subgenre back in the 70s, but I honestly have heard exactly one album in that entire list of stuff by a band called Quintessence. I don't think it's legitimate. And then they've got a couple of things that aren't really even prog that we're going to get rid of. There's prog related, which includes bands like Queen and Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, David Bowie, Blue Oyster Cult, stuff like that. And then we've got proto-prog with the bands like the Beatles and the Who and the Doors, Deep Purple, Spirit, Jimi Hendrix, stuff like that. Those aren't being included. So now, all right, where are we at now? And now we're at like, I don't know. We're gonna get rid of 2 more. We got like 18. I'm gonna bring it down to 16. There are like 4 different categories for heavy prog stuff. There's heavy prog, there's prog metal, there's post / experimental metal, and then there's extreme technical metal. Post metal would include stuff like Tool and Modeling of the Well. The extreme metal includes stuff like Garagia and Opeth and Mastodon. So what I'm doing is I'm gonna merge the tech, the post and prog metal into one. We're keeping heavy prog because that's kind of like a separate thing. And that, my friends, gives us 16 subgenres. We've got symphonic, Canterbury, crossover, eclectic, jazz rock / fusion, progressive folk, progressive electronica, heavy prog, krautrock, RPI, Zool, Rock in Opposition, RIO, Rio, post-rock / math rock, neo-prog, space rock / psychedelic, and prog metal. So those are the 16 categories that I'm going to be breaking down. I'm going to go through them in order of how much I like each of the subgenres, how familiar I am with them, and then I'm going to give it an Andy Edwards Progometer rating. Yes, I am, absolutely. I'm stealing the Progometer from Andy Edwards. It's awesome, and yeah, it's mine now. The Superiometer doesn't work for me. It's the Prog meter, so here we go. At number 16, we're looking at Zool. And as you guys know, I just don't get it. I don't understand the whole thing. I respect Christian Vander. He started an entire subgenre. Who does that? One person creates an entire category of music. Just amazing how many bands followed in his footsteps. Bands like Eschaton and Universal Totem Orchestra and Shub Nugareth and Bondage Fruit and I can never say this one, Koenji Hayakai. All those bands taking their cues from Magma, and I am putting as the proggiest album in the Zool category, Magma's 5th album, Kontarkos from 1974. What's its Progometer score? Very high indeed, man. This is prog at a really high level. At number 15, we're going to electronica, progressive electronic. Again, a category I'm not super familiar with. Yeah, I know the Klaus Schultz of the world, Edgar Frost, Throbbing Gristle comes to mind, Breidablik, Blick, however you pronounce that band up there in Norway. But obviously, I'm going with Tangerine Dream, and the album I think is their proggiest, Force Majeure. This was like their 6th album for Virgin, something like their 10th overall. Phaedra came out in 74, then Rubicon in 75, Stratosphere in 76, Cyclone in 78. Force Majeure came out in 1979, and according to the Progometer, it's very low. I don't think this is, really prog, capital P prog at all. It's great stuff, but it's very low on the Progometer. At number 14, we're talking about Rio. the rock and opposition movement, which sucked in musicians from around the world. Everybody from Frank Zappa to Cardiacs to Art Zoy to Secret Chiefs 3, Thinking Plague, Samla Mamas Mana. So it was a global phenomenon of bands just doing some really weird stuff. And again, it's not a category I know a whole lot about, but I do know Henry Cow, and I'm going with their first album, Legend or Leg End, from 1973. Fred Frith, Chris Cutler, Tim Hodgkinson, John Greaves, and Jeff Lee. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And yeah, according to the Proggometer, it's very high. Yeah, this is highbrow stuff. It's absolutely super duper proggy. At number 13 is the Kraut Rock subcategory. Again, you know, these ones at the bottom aren't ones that I've spent a lot of time delving into at great length, but man, I'm telling you, I'm really starting to get a feel for Krautrock and an itch to listen to more bands like Can and Noi and Faust and Popol Vuh. I've been around in my life for a long, long time, but it's Almond Duel 2 that is just getting my goat lately. I'm putting Yeti up here. Yeah, I know sides 1 and 2 are, actual songs and whatnot. And then you get into all the weird improv stuff on the second album. But 1970s Yeti. What's the Proggometer score on it? I'm giving it a moderate amount of prog. It's awesome, but it's not super duper proggy. At number 12. I'm going with the jazz rock fusion subgenre here in this position. Subgenre absolutely begun by the great Miles Davis, and so many people have, kind of picked up the mantle from the Al Di Meolas and the Chick Coreas and John McLaughlin's and, with the Billy Cobhams and the Return to Forevers and the Jean-Luc Ponty. Even Santana was doing jazz rock, but the one that I will always get up on a soapbox for and talk about its greatness is the second album from Mahu Vishnu Orchestra, Birds of Fire from 1973. It's absolutely fantastic. And what's its Proggometer score? It's high, very high. Not very high. I'm going to go high on this, on the Andy Edwards Proggometer. Next up is the prog folk category. And everybody, you think of prog folk, automatically you think of Jethro Tull, but to me, they don't, not a lot of their stuff sounds all that folk. A lot of it just sounds like rock music to me. So I'm, looking at Fairport Convention, Los Jaivas from Chile, Spyro-Gyra, not the jazz Spyro-Gyra, the other one that actually spelt it as one word. Straubs definitely fits in this category, but I'm going with Canada's Harmonium and their second album, The 5 Seasons from 1975. Such a beautiful, beautiful record. You don't even mind that there's no drums in it, but the Proggometer isn't real happy with prog folk. In fact, we're going with the low Proggometer score. And next up in the number 10 spot, it's the prog metal, which we've kind of put all our eggs in one basket here. According to Prog Archives, prog metal includes bands like Riverside, Queensryche, Ayreon, Symphony X, Fates Warning, Angra. Oddly enough, Haken is not part of that. They are considered heavy prog by Prog Archives, which is a little weird. But who am I going with here? You know who I'm going with here. I'm a Dream Theater fan, absolutely, so I'm going here. And we're talking about prog, so Octavarian is going to be my choice here. And according to the Andy Edwards Proggometer, its prog inflection rate is high. Indeed, it is at number 9 in the 9 spot. Let's talk about psych/space rock. Again, the big name in this category is going to be Pink Floyd, obviously. Nectar, Hypno 69, Ozric Tentacles, Hawkwind. How about a Gusa fitting in that category a little bit? But I am going with Eloy's 6th album, Ocean, from 1977. I absolutely love this thing. Frank Borman's voice doesn't really bother me too much. I think it's a fantastic album. They had several really, really good albums, but I'm going with Ocean. I just think it's their best. Proggometer score on this is moderate. It's not super proggy, but it's super awesome. Next up is the neo-prog category, boys and girls. a category I've been enjoying more and more over time. I think the subgenre has gotten better and better. During the 80s, it was dominated by bands like 12th Night and Marillion and Palace, Pendragon. Poland had an amazing band called Collage early on in the movement. But the album I'm spotlighting in the neo-prog category for the Proggiest records, I'm going with IQ's Road of Bones from 2014. I just love that record. I think it's their best. They have a lot of great records. I could have gone with a Marillion record here or something, a modern type of neo band like Yucca and Chronoship or Comedy of Errors or Drifting Sun or something along those lines. But I'm going with IQ Road of Bones, and Andy Edwards' Progometer says it's moderate. Hey, I'm doing the Andy Edwards Progometer. I probably should have done Frequency, right? Since that's the album he drummed on. At the 7th position, my 7th favorite subgenre, if you will, it's post-rock / math rock. And there's so much goodness in this category, from Sigur Rós and Explosions in the Sky and Mogwai and Swans and all that stuff. But I am doing Godspeed You Black Emperor's 2000 masterpiece, Lift Your Skinny Fists to Heaven Like Antennas. It's a double album. 4 sides, 4 songs, but according to the Progometer, it's quite low on the Prog meter. So yeah, it's a low score there. Next up is the Canterbury subgenre. So many bands here to sort through, and I thought about Caravan, and I thought about Soft Machine and Egg and Hatfield in the North. Space Shanty certainly was an album that I took a long look at, but at the end of the day, I'm going with National Health's second album of Cues and Cures from 1978. Just fabulous. Both of their albums are amazing. Canterbury is a subgenre I've been listening to more and more and more over the years, and National Health, man, absolutely the proggiest thing in that space. Sorry, Egg, but I'm going with of Cues and Cures, and it's Andy Edwards' Progometer score is high. Yes, it is. Next up, the number 5 subgenre for me is the heavy prog subgenre, which includes bands like Uriah Heep, Mars Volta, Porcupine Tree. For some reason, they stick Haken in this category, although they're clearly prog metal. But Rush is the big dominating player in this subgenre, and I'm going with Moving Pictures. Why not? It seems to epitomize this subgenre the best. Yeah, they probably had proggier records, but I'm trying to stay within the confines of each of these subgenres, and Moving Pictures just ticks every single box. It's super prog, it's heavy, it's popular. Everybody knows Tom Sawyer and Limelight in those songs. It's Progometer score. It's high, absolutely. Next up, it's crossover prog, a made-up category that's just like a hodgepodge of different things, including bands like Supertramp and the Moody Blues, Mike Oldfield, Peter Gabriel. For some reason, they put Steven Wilson in this category, but they put Porcupine Tree and heavy prog. I don't really understand it, but the proggiest record in this subcategory, I'm going with Big Train's English Electric One. Why not? From 2012, just a dynamite record. Overall, Big Train is capital P prog, but I'm giving them a moderate score because a lot of their stuff is song-based, and vocals are a real big part of what they do. And yeah, so that's where I go with crossover prog. Next up is Eclectic Prague, another one of those made-up categories that doesn't make any sense, kind of like a catch-all for bands like Vandergraaf Generator and Gentle Giant and Beardfish, bands that you just can't figure out where to put them. Hey, let's make up something called Eclectic Prague, and wouldn't you know it, a little band named King Crimson falls perfectly into this category. And I'm going with Red as my example of the proggiest eclectic prog record out there. It's Andy Edwards' Progometer score, very high. Oh, very high indeed. Oh, my second favorite subgenre of prog. It's Rock Progressivo Italiano, RPI. Whoo, man, I love me some Italian prog. Whether it's PFM or Le Orme or Banco del Moturo Soccorso or Quella Vecchia Locanda or Locanda della Fate or Aria or Goblin or Alpha Taurus or Semiramis or Maxophone. You just keep going on and on. The well is so deep, but for the proggiest RPI album, I'm going with Zarathustra by Musea Rosenbach. Just a masterpiece. My favorite Italian album, one of my favorite albums of all time. It's just brilliant. If you like Mellotron and raspy Italian vocals, man, you could do worse than Zarathustra, and it's Andy Edwards' Progometer score. It's very high. It's very high indeed. And finally, you know my favorite subgenre of prog is and always will be the symphonic prog, led by bands like Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Genesis and Camel, Renaissance, more recently, bands like Transatlantic and Wobbler. But the number one, the proggiest thing in the symphonic space, yeah, you guys know, it's Tales from Topographic Oceans. 4 sides, 4 songs. This sucker came out in 1973. It was Yes's 6th album, and it is my favorite album of all time. I argue it is the proggiest album of all time. It's Andy Edwards' Progometer score. What's it going to be? Yeah, it's pretty up. Very high indeed. Yes, it is. And those are the 16 proggiest albums by subgenre. In the history of prog, I haven't really talked about those subgenres too much, so that was a little bit of fun. Anyway, don't forget, boys and girls, Friday at noon, every Friday at noon on Prog Radio, it's the Prog Corner playlist where Kevin plays all the music. I'm not allowed to play here on YouTube because of copyright strikes and all that kind of nonsense. And then Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern, me and the gang, the panel will be discussing the 10 best prog rock epics of all time. Oh man, that's going to be good. So join us for that. Anyway, I love you guys. Peace in the Middle East, free Tibet, and God save the king. Save that king. King Chucky could use your saving. Save that boy right now. Do it. I'll see you punks soon.